Manitobans head to the polls on October 3rd in a close race between leader of the Manitoba Progressive Conservatives, Heather Stephenson, and Manitoba NDP leader Wab Kinew. So far, there's a clear split in focus, with the NDP going full force on healthcare announcements and the PCs focusing on affordability. Meanwhile, there's growing tension in the province over a Tory promise to enhance parental rights in schools and a long-contested decision to search or not to search a Winnipeg landfill. For more analysis, I'm joined by Agnes Welch, principal at Probe Research, and Kelly Saunders, associate professor at Brandon University. Thank you both for joining me. Appreciate it.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Well, Agnes, let's start with you. This election has kind of been described as the Tories pushing on affordability, the NDP on health care, not unlike what we saw in the Alberta election. How do you think that's playing out with voters in Manitoba?
I think fairly well. I think we're about to see, another round of polling this week. It is a very close race, and the parties have both been almost single-minded in their focus on their individual issues and kind of playing to their strengths. So the NDP on healthcare, making the argument that the Tories kind of wrecked healthcare and that you need to give the NDP a chance to fix it. And then the Tories really focusing on that cost of living, affordability, tax cut kind of approach, which again plays to their strength, I think.
So Kelly Saunders, those are the opening moves, right? They've laid out sort of the initial themes of the campaigns, but now we're into the kind of the debate portion of the campaign. There's one on radio on Monday, a TV one coming up. How important and how critical are these moments in this particular race?
Well, debates can be critically important, as we saw in the last Alberta election, right? Where one party that looks like it's got momentum all of a sudden gets taken over by another simply because of what happens during an election debate. So yeah, those events I think are going to be really critical. And as Agnes said, especially given this dynamic right now, the parties are seemingly running neck and neck in many parts of Winnipeg. And so they're looking for any little space, any little leverage that they can possibly get over their opponents, and hoping that the debates will allow them that space.
So, Agnes, what do you think they need to do? The two main leaders, Heather Stephenson and Wab Kinew, no disrespecting the Liberal leader, but those are the two prime contenders to be the Premier of Manitoba. What's the play for them in the big TV debate coming up?
Yeah, they all have very different goals, I think. So I think Heather Stephenson, who's maybe not a naturally great communicator, I think she has to be a pretty good communicator. And she's had a bit of practice. There have been quite a few kind of, chamber debates and other kind of events in the last couple of weeks. And so I think expectations maybe aren't really high for her, but I think she's getting a little bit warmer, a little bit more kind of colloquial in her delivery and a bit smoother. And then I think Wab Kinew, who is quite a good communicator, his goal will be focusing on those Liberal votes. The fascinating thing about this campaign is how much both parties have kind of created a strategy and really stuck to it. Right. And Wab Kinew's strategy is really focusing on those soft Liberal votes and appealing to those folks.
So Kelly Saunders, if the NDP strategy is on those soft Liberal votes to try to get them to come over, sort of a reverse of what we see at the federal level in national elections, how do issues like the parental rights and the pronoun policy that is suddenly starting to surface? We've seen it in other provinces. It's coming up more and more in this campaign. How does that potentially play in the stretch run here?
Absolutely. That's a really critical wedge issue. I think that the NDP are using as a way to not only show that they are very different than the Conservatives, and that this current incarnation of the Conservative Party is different than maybe the old Progressive Conservative Party of the past here in Manitoba. So I think they're trying to do that. And then they're also, as Agnes just said, using this as leverage to try to win over Liberal voters, to say, look, you have to vote strategically in this election. You might not want to join our party. You might not want to take out a party membership, but for October 3rd, for this election, the stakes are simply too high, and pointing to this issue as something that sort of exemplifies that.
So Agnes, on this, in terms of like key battlegrounds, I spoke with a member of Wab Kinew's team, actually, who I ran into in Calgary when we were out there covering the Alberta election. And their view at that time was that this is all about battleground Winnipeg. The NDP needs to win big in the city and in the suburbs there, and that's their path to victory. Is that what it's all going to come down to in this stretch run on October 3rd?
That's it. And I think they don't even really need to win big. They just need to win by 300 votes in like 12 different places.
Right.
And so we've got a big spreadsheet about all of those different ridings. And in fact, some of them are outside of Winnipeg, these kind of funny, slightly lefter leaning sort of rural ridings. But really, the battleground is in the southern suburbs of Winnipeg and the 5 or 6 ridings there. And they are tight. Like everybody's just gossiping and kind of sharing intel about who said what on the door and who's got more signs and kind of how the ground game is shaping up, because it really does come down to that, I think.
So Kelly Saunders, is that the way you see it for a national audience, you know, trying to tune into the Manitoba election and game this thing out, really focus on Winnipeg and the ridings around the capital?
For sure. I mean, Winnipeg holds more seats in the provincial legislature compared to outside of Winnipeg. So no question how the numbers break down. But I think as well, you know, the NDP certainly have set their sights on some surrounding areas, some surrounding ridings, just either bedroom communities around Winnipeg, or else even places like Brandon, my city, the second largest city in Manitoba. There's a riding here, Brandon East, that I think is very ripe for the picking for the NDP. And so they're certainly going to be setting their sights on this and other ridings such as Dauphin, for example, Selkirk. So Winnipeg is the battleground, but I think their path to victory will be a little bit easier if they can pick up some of these ridings outside of Winnipeg as well.
Right. Well, a university town, right? That has a lot of the kind of demographic that New Democrats would try to attract on voting day. So just quickly, Mary Agnes, right now, I looked at the polls and the seat projections. And boy, I think it's going to be a late night if things don't break between now and October 3rd. I mean, could we be looking at a minority government potentially with the Liberals at the balance of power? Is it that kind of a situation right now?
You know, this is like when you raise the specter of minority government, all the politicos in the province kind of scoff at that. But when I look at kind of the magic spreadsheet of each of the ridings and what's leaning and trying to gather intel, right now I can't get to a minority. And so I think that
Sorry, can't get to a minority or can't get to a majority?
I can't get to a majority.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
And so I think maybe those 2 Liberal seats, maybe 3 Liberal seats might become really important. It's going to be, I think, fairly close.
Kelly Saunders, is that how you see it with a few weeks to go?
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, I think even the NDP are feeling that way. I know in one of their election debates, you know, Wab Kinew, the leader of the NDP, actually made a specific message and a targeted message talking to Liberal voters saying, please come and vote for us, you know, strategically. So it means that they're feeling a little bit of the heat as well. So, yeah, I think we possibly could be looking at that.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mary Agnes Welch and Kelly Saunders, and we'll be checking in with you throughout this election campaign to get your latest take on how things are going. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we've got a programming note to tell you about. Power and Politics will be live from Winnipeg for the Manitoba election. You can tune in on Election Day, Tuesday, October 3rd, and get reaction to all the fallout the very next day.
Thank you for watching the CBC Manitoba YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. For the latest breaking news and top stories, download the CBC News app.